Okay, sorry for the delay, here we go. So I'm Mike Schwarz, CEO of the International Institute of Marine Surveying. I've been doing this role now for 3 years, and I was talking to James and indeed Rod earlier, and they both asked me how much experience do you have in this industry, and I said, well, absolutely none. So I'm not a technical man. I now know one end of a boat or a ship from the other, which is progress. But I was really brought in to manage the organisation, manage the association, the institute, and that's really what I do. So I've got half an hour slot here. What I'd really like to do is to give you an introduction to the institute. I'm conscious a lot of you are not actually members of the organisation. I'm not particularly here to sell you membership, but if you want to become a member, we always welcome new members. What I am here to do is to tell you something about what we do, how we do it, how we support our member surveyors, and how much information is available to all of you, regardless of whether or not you're a member or not, because there is a lot of information that we're putting out into the marketplace. So I'm going to talk initially about the Institute and some of the activities we do, some of the things you can get involved with. And then I want to talk just briefly about surveyor standards. Last year, I put some information out into the public domain in the UK at our 25th anniversary conference in London. It was really well received, and it just got surveyors thinking a bit more about how they develop as individuals. So there's half a dozen slides right at the end, which I want to talk about. Don't you love it when technology won't work? Why will that not advance? Help! My PowerPoint is frozen. Here we go. That's all. Can I just wish you, on behalf of the IIMS Management Board, which is 14 member surveyors, not all based in the UK, around the world, all the best for the conference. They send you their best wishes. Greetings too from Adam Brancher. Adam is our president. He resides in Tasmania in Australia and wanted me to particularly say greetings to you all. And my personal thanks to James Randy Wren for putting this together and organising it. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to touch on some of these points. We'll talk about some of the activities we're involved in. The organisation is continuing to grow and flourish. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the financial background, but it wasn't great 3 years ago. We've improved that significantly. I'll touch on membership. I'll talk a little bit about the professional qualifications we run. I'll talk about the MSA, which stands for the Marine Surveying Academy, which is a wholly owned company within the IIMS. I'll talk about some of the training opportunities we put out. I'll touch on the report magazine. There's a couple of copies of the report floating around. You're welcome to have a look at that. A little bit on the Handy Guide series. And if you're wondering what LYSCWG stands for, Large Yacht Small Craft Working Group. That's a mouthful, isn't it? We took the decision just last month in January to enlarge that group. It used to be the Small Craft Working Group. We're conscious there are a lot of guys now involved in surveying super yachts, mega yachts. They are a different beast. And there are a lot of surveyors who seem to be wanting to progress from being small craft surveyors into really getting involved in the super yacht sector. So we're trying to help them and bridge the gap and enable them to do that. A little bit on membership. We currently number just under 1,000 members. We're active in 97 countries. Togo, as it says there, being the one that we've just added most recently. Last year we merged with AMSBC. That is the guys down in British Columbia. That formed IIMS Canada, which now has about 60 strong in the fold. And as a consequence of doing that, it brought in 30 new members to the organisation. Last year, we also formed IIMS Nigeria. We now have 7 branches internationally, although we've just put one into dormancy, which is New Zealand. Part of the issue always is finding people who will give up their time to run these things. And New Zealand has been a bit troublesome in the last year, so we decided to make that dormant. Essentially what a branch does, it looks after the needs of their surveyors locally. So the guy in Nigeria would organise a get-together like this once a year, same with Canada. It's all good stuff and it keeps things going locally. Professional qualifications. We've been running distance learning marine surveying qualifications for over 15 years. We had to make a tough decision just about a year ago and we launched these 2 new programs. We split our course into 2. So there's one for commercial ship guys and there's one for yacht and small craft surveyors. We used to be accredited through an organisation called EdExcel in the UK. Perhaps you don't know them over here, there's no reason why you should, but they are a well-known accreditor of courses. So they work independently and deliver the program, or rather verify the program that we deliver to the students. Part of the challenge at the end of 2015 was that Edexcel decided they no longer wanted to support organizations who were specialists, and we were quite niche, let's face it, there aren't millions of marine surveyors out there. So they culled about 500 courses, of which we were one. So we had to make a quick decision. We knew we had the best content out there available in the market. We just wondered how we could continue to deliver it without a third-party accreditation. But we decided to take it in-house and effectively to accredit the qualification ourselves. It's subject to external audit, so you know, we kind of squeaky clean. So it's the same content split into two. We took a look at Unit 4, report writing we felt wasn't quite relevant for small craft. We had that rewritten. And currently we have 100 plus students enrolled in that. Typically, it's going to take you probably 2 years to complete the course. It's on an assignment basis, so we deliver modules. You then produce the assignment based on the module, fire it back, we send it out to an external examiner, it's marked, and so on. Don't have to do the whole course. You can even just take, you know, one unit within the course if you so wished. So we are recognized as an educator. A little bit on the Marine Surveying Academy, as I touched upon, a wholly owned subsidiary of IIMS, managed by my colleague Hilary Excel, who's the business manager. We launched MSA a couple of years ago, and really it's the place where we put our independent training and accreditation. So we keep it separate from the membership organization itself. And we're active on two fronts. One is, sorry about all these acronyms, RMCI, Registered Marine Coatings Inspectors. These are guys who are actively looking at super yacht coatings. That's very specific, super yacht coatings, mega yachts and so on. And the industry was faced with a problem, and still is to an extent faced with a problem. 50% of these great big things that are coming out of the sheds are subject to litigation, and simply because the owner doesn't like the way the paint job looks. So the industry said, how can we upgrade or uprate the skills of people who are doing this work? We came together to work with various people, including Axon Abel International Paints, who you will know, Icomia, who you may know, and CIBAS, which is the Super Yacht Builders Association. So they are our stakeholders in this. We develop the program and we deliver the course. There are now 80 qualified RMCIs around the world. Most of those in Europe at the moment, I have to say. We would like to bring a course to the States. We certainly plan to go to the Far East. And we'll be running another couple in Europe this year. So increasingly now the super yacht yards are having a look and saying, well, do you know what, if you haven't got the badge and the card, if you haven't attained the qualification, we don't want you in our yard. So it's starting to have some teeth. And then something that I know James is quite passionate about, which is the CMID, Common Marine Inspection Document. AVI stands for Accredited Vessel Inspector. You may know IMCA, the International Marine Contractors Association. If you don't, they're a big organisation. They're a trade body based in London. They have about 1,000 members. Their members tend to be BP, Esso, Shell, the likes, and so on. It's all about CMID. It's not a survey. It's effectively an inspection, and it's a tick box inspection. So once a year, BP may say we need to have our vessels, our offshore vessels, just checked to make sure they're sound, not being surveyed, but just to make sure that they're good and they conform. IMCA came to me nearly 3 years ago, and they said, we have a problem. We have people who are doing this work who have not got a clue about the vessels that they are inspecting. I said, well, give me some examples. There are effectively 7 categories. So you've got small workboats under 24 meters. You've got things like LNG fueled vessels. You've got heavy lift, and so on and so on and so on. Dynamic positioning. So there are 7 classifications one can apply for. They said, we don't know who is getting on a jack-up vessel and whether or not they have the faintest idea what a jack-up vessel is, how it performs, how it operates. We need an organisation who can actually verify that someone who is doing that work knows what they're doing. And to be honest, in this day and age, it's pretty common sense, isn't it? And what's interesting is we've had 220 accredited in the last, 20 months now. The scheme is robust. Not everybody's getting through. We have rejected about 35 at last count. And why we rejected them, they simply cannot provide operational evidence that they understand what these vessels are. So it's an interesting program, and I think one that's going to roll out and run from here. As part of your accreditation, you do need to do a 1-day course, which takes you through everything that we would expect of a qualified AVI. We've now done well over 100, actually about 135 have been through that program, literally all over the world. By the way, I'm happy to take any questions later. I'm here for 2 days, so if you want to catch me later on today, tomorrow, just give me a shout anytime. Most of you have got my business card. I welcome emails from you as well. So here we are. We are delivering something today by Zoom. This, for me, is a really interesting development. It is a reliable platform. We started testing it around about May of last year. We now do a lot of our management board meetings using Zoom. So what you see on the screen, the Zoom attendees are seeing as well. It means anyone from anywhere in the world can join. I don't ever think this would be a replacement for a face-to-face coming together training session, but it does mean that people can come in from afar. We had a training day in Athens recently. We had half a dozen people join us into that one, some from the UK, some from Europe. We did a report writing course in September of last year. That was fantastic. That's a 4-hour program, so it's half a day. And we kicked off at 8 o'clock UK time. We had 2 guys from Vancouver, which was midnight. And one was there with a glass of red wine, having a drink. And then on the other end of the scale, we had a guy from Perth and one from Sydney. And for them, it was, what, 6 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock at night, something like that. And then guys from around the rest of Europe. So it's a fantastic way to deliver this type of content. Not easy to do in a practical sense. If we were to go out now and get underneath a boat, it's not so easy to do. But in a classroom environment where you're doing this type of thing, it's absolutely superb. We have also launched, we did the first one last week, a series of 90-minute, they are only 90-minute online seminars, and we are awarding 3 CPD points to IIMS members who choose to take part in those. To give you some examples, you probably can't read that because that looks a bit grim on there, but let me see. Mediation and the Surveyor, that we ran with Karen last week. We're doing one on coatings inspections, basic introduction to coating, one on NDT, which Rod will be interested in. Ultrasonic testing gauges, which your friends in the UK are delivering, applying knowledge management, report writing, tonnage theory, surveying wooden craft, cloud and PC computing and report writing. So we are planning to roll out 20 of these. They're all on the website. We'll be adding to this program as we go along the line. You don't have to be a member of the IIMS to take part in this. I want to talk very briefly about certifying authority. It may be something you're not aware of over here. We are one of, I think now, 8 coding authorities in the UK. If you wish to use a vessel of 24 metres or below commercially, then in the UK you have to be licensed. So we are effectively a licensing authority. It's good business for us. Our fleet is about 300 strong. We put on 6 coding surveyors last year, not all in the UK actually. We've got people coding British registered vessels actually all over the world. We've recently gained approval by the Gibraltar Registry, who are a tough nut to crack, so I'm delighted about that. We also run through our certifying authority tonnages, so we have a lot of members putting tonnages through. We are just moving that into a new app format, which is going to make it considerably easier because it'll automatically calculate the tonnage for you once you put your parameters in. And we will be launching a standalone website for our certifying authority. We currently have 50 IIMS members who code, and I would say they are the cream of the crop. They really know their stuff, and of course, like all of you guys, they are ultimately there to keep people safe at sea. And it is challenging. Once a year we have an audit by the MCA, Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, and to use that lovely phrase we use in the UK, that's squeaky bum time. They can be quite ruthless with the way they audit. They will pick on something quite seemingly innocuous, and the next thing you know is they want to drill down into the nano detail. And they don't send marine surveyors in. They do come with one marine surveyor, but actually they come with a bunch of young, female, and they are female, I'm not being sexist, they just happen to be female auditors, and that's what they are. They are specifically there to try and trip us up. So we struggle with that. Great fun, and that day is coming up on the 1st of March. Happy to talk about certifying authority in more detail with any of you. Report magazine. Somebody said, what's your background? My background is actually publishing. I spent 25 years in publishing. So when I came to this organization to take the report, which was a pretty ordinary looking publication, to turn it something a bit more meaningful, has been a great challenge for me, one that I've relished. So I'm now seeking fresh original content. Sure, we have members who write for it and write regularly, but increasingly I'm looking to go out to organizations. Rolls-Royce wrote an article especially for us on autonomous ships quite recently, absolutely fascinating. So there's lots of people out there prepared to write for it. You can read it online in PDF format, we can via e-reader, it's all available on the website. Again, you don't have to be a member to access that information. We put out our largest ever issues in September, December. They were both 80 pages. It's published quarterly. And as I say, there are a couple of copies circulating around. So if you get a chance to have a look, please do. Again, continuing a little bit on the publishing theme, and somebody said, how old-fashioned to be publishing handy guides. In fact, James has very nicely arranged the series out on the table here. You're welcome to have a look. We've sold actually, I think, 500 copies since we started publishing them just over a year ago. And again, I had this notion, I challenged our, shall I say, our more senior members, and said to them, you must have a specialist subject that you'd like to write a book about. And I was offered 30 manuscripts almost by return email, absolutely extraordinary. So we've got a whole raft of things here from, as you can see on the screen, dynamically positioned vessels, surveying wooden craft, report writing, one on knowledge management. We've just put one out, in fact, it's publishing this week, small craft engine surveys. So there's a whole raft of stuff. But I am aware there's quite a lot of books out there on marine surveying. They are, in my opinion, very expensive. No such thing as a cheap book on marine surveying. I wanted to make these available by the majority, not the minority. So typically, I think we price them to sell, really. And as I say, you're welcome to have a look there. Again, all available on the website. You can go and read up about them if you wish. Well, we're a small organisation, essentially, but you might be surprised to know we run 14 websites now. They've all proliferated in the last 3 years, really. One of the things James and I were talking about over dinner last night down in downtown Baltimore was search engine optimization. I'm not going to bore you with the technology of SEO. It's a bit of a buzzword. But the website is very highly optimized. And if you put anything in to do with marine surveying, IIMS will always be there in the top 3 or 4. So we work very, very hard behind the scenes to make that work. I also last year undertook to rebrand all of the branch sites. All of our branches had built their own website. There was nothing knitting them all together. They looked a bit messy. In fact, some were quite dreadful and didn't really reflect well on the organisation. So I undertook that piece of work to do from head office, and then I've effectively presented out to them a bright new shiny website. The MSA has its own website. The RMCI, I mentioned earlier, they have their own website. The CMID guys have their own website, and the certifying authority one is coming. The website you want, iims.org.uk. We do attract, as it says here, on average 13,000 unique visitors. In actual fact, I was looking at the January stats. We hit 16,000 unique visitors last month, which is a bit of a jump. Don't quite know what's caused that spike yet. And we get about 25,000 unique page views. So interesting for an organisation with 1,000 members that you get 15,000 unique visitors a month. So all those will be the boating public. Just goes to show how well the site is optimised, really. And we just welcomed our 250th, quarter of a millionth visitor to the site since we launched a couple of years ago. So do go and spend all the time on those. James knows there's a lot of information on there. We've also become very active on social media. I personally loathe Twitter. I really can't stand it. But it is a really interesting way of communicating. And we've built up over 1,000 followers in about 18 months. Some really quite influential followers in there. At IIMS Marine will find us or find the Twitter feed. I'd encourage you all to go and have a look at it if you do Twitter. Again, it's an opportunity for us to put information out into the public domain. We also launched a LinkedIn group that's now about 750 strong. As well as the group itself, we have a discussion forum there. Don't have to be a member to join that either. If you go and have a look at LinkedIn and search for the IIMS Marine Surveying Discussion Group, you're welcome to join that. And then we started making videos. I tend now to video all of the London conferences. So in the last couple of years, we've actually made 75 original videos, and we have a YouTube channel. Videos are available there, and they're obviously also available through the IIMS website. Again, you don't need to be a member to take advantage of that. And there's some great content. We've delivered some fascinating presentations over the last couple of years by some really expert people on all sorts of subjects. So do go and have a look. This is rather boring for you guys, but it's worth talking about briefly. We have a really nasty, old, horrible database in our office that's been around for donkey's years, and we are about to rip it out and replace it. We've just started that process. As part of that process, we've launched a CPD app, which is really hot off the press. We launched it the day before yesterday, and I ran a mile knowing that the girls were going to be awash with questions in the office, and sure enough, they were flooded with emails on, where are they, what's track today's Tuesday, Wednesday. But it's great. So whereas it was very much a manual system, now the whole CPD process is automated. So if you were to come to an event like this, for example, today, you download the app onto your Android or iOS device, or you can have go through the web-based version. There's a web-based version too. You can simply enter there and then claim your points. That goes into the office. They will then, tomorrow morning when they get to it, look at it, accept your request, and then your account is credited with 5 CPD points. It's very, very neat. And I had some great feedback already in the last 48 hours. Somebody said, well, how do I prove I've been to a boat show? And I said, well, if you take a selfie of yourself at the boat show, just click, we can see the boat show in the background, attach it to the app, which you can do, we'll grant you 1 point. And we had 2 guys do that yesterday. So I thought, wonderful. So I'm quite proud of that. We are, I think, trying to be a very forward-thinking organisation. We want to be at the cutting edge. I want to be leading, and I'm happy for others to be following us. I don't mind that. It's a position I quite like. Just a little bit from further afield, I mentioned IIMS Canada. They ran their first training day back in December in Vancouver. They had 20 attendees. Australia are planning a 2-day technical workshop in Sydney to coincide with the Sydney Boat Show. Our main London conference this year, back at the Regent's University in the heart of London on the 11th and 12th of September. Our branch in UAE will be running a 2-day conference in Dubai. And we've got various other training courses running. We've just done one in Athens. We're going out to Palma. We traditionally go and have an event around the Palma Super Yacht Show. We get about 30 people coming for that, mainly from the South Mediterranean, but from all over the place. And then the big bit of news from me is I've managed to secure a yard visit into the Royal Hoosman yard. So you guys might know Royal Hoosman, who do these great big 90-metre sailing yachts. And we're taking a party of guys in there, well, mid-April, we're going into the yard to have a look around the facility. So very exciting stuff. There's a lot going on. You're welcome to get involved with it. Now, I promised you I've got 5 minutes now to talk briefly on surveyor standards. It's a big topic, this, and to actually condense it into 5 minutes with half a dozen slides is a bit unfair. But I hope really what I want to do is just to get you to think a bit, think about why standards are important and why they do matter. So my message last year and again this year is to continually improve yourself. The reality is you can stay right where you are now, and there's nothing wrong with that, or you can invest in yourself. So harsh reality is if you don't make that investment in yourself, unless you work for a large organisation, no one else is going to do it for you. So you have to take responsibility yourself. And then somebody said, well, how much should I invest? Good question, that. If you look around, the rule of thumb is about 3% of your annual turnover, in a way that you might spend 5 or 7% of your annual turnover on marketing. Business thinking is that you should spend 3% of your turnover on developing yourself. So let's look in a bit more detail. Why bother? Well, my argument is that if you do bother, it will make you an even better surveyor than you are now. Surely possible. We never stop learning. It will enable you to keep a grip on this mad world we live in, which is, let's face it, driven by technology. And I was talking to someone the other day and I said, if you don't know how an autonomous ship works, how can you survey one? And he said, well, that's a fair point. So with that type of technology coming on, how do you gain the knowledge? Question mark, don't know. So if you enhance your standards, I believe it will set you apart from incompetent surveyors. In the UK, I hate to say it, we have far too many incompetent surveyors, and the industry needs to be rid of them. And I think it will make you an even more marketable surveyor. Can you define incompetent? Well, it's a good question, isn't it? When you apply for membership of the IIMS, we ask for objective evidence. We want to see that you know what you're talking about, and I don't mean that in, we want to see evidence that you've done it. So we'd look for 2 or 3 reports from you. We would put that through our professional assessment committee. We'd probably take references. We ask for 2 references with an application. There are 2 ways to define competence. One is through educational qualifications, and I accept that guys of a certain age, certainly in the UK, don't have those educational qualifications. They just didn't take them when they were younger, but they have a wealth of experience. So we're looking for a combination of 2. Having the experience without the education qualifications is okay, it's fine, it's not a problem. But if you've got a bit of both, then that's wonderful. Have I answered your question okay? Yeah? One of the things I'm often asked, and I chuckle, I get a lot of calls from people saying, can you recommend a qualified surveyor? And as it says here, my response is always the same, what do you mean by qualified? And I'm talking about the boating public now, really, or someone who's got a vessel they want to code and they've never coded a boat before. They assume that every surveyor has gone through some sort of formal qualification, sat a big exam. As of course in the UK, if you don't know, if you want to be a house surveyor, you know, it's difficult to become a house surveyor. You have got to walk the walk and talk the talk. The reality is, I can put a board outside my front garden and say I'm a marine surveyor. Don't to stop me doing that. I might not get any business because I don't know much, but the point is, don't stop me doing that. So, you know, this is not the case, and it means we've got people still coming into the industry who are not fit for purpose. So some of the actions you perhaps could take, you could gain further professional qualifications. I happen to think that theory without practical is not clever. It's good to a point, but again, James and I were talking last night about this. Some of the universities now in the UK, I don't know about over here, you can do a degree in marine management. You come out 3 years later, you've never been in a boatyard, you've never been in a shipyard, you've never been on board a ship, but you come out with a degree. I would question really whether that's very helpful. It's helpful to a point, but you need to get that practical experience. How do you get practical experience? It's not easy. Being mentored is a challenge. It's something we'd like to do more of. We would like to formalise mentoring through the IIMS, and I think there'll be a plan coming out in the next probably 18 months. Perhaps you could go on a half-day course and understand how to make social media work for you. If you don't do social media, I know of one Indian member who gets 50% of his business from Facebook, which I was staggered to hear. I don't quite know how he makes it work, but he does. If Word is something you're not good on, you can do a half-day Word course. There's many, many ways you can do it. If you're a member, keep your CPD points up to date and network with your peers. Actually coming to an event like this gives you the chance to talk to other people. At the end of the day, I'm sure you guys are all faced with the same challenges out there. So take the opportunity to talk to others, and that's free to do. So why does this matter? Because as I've said, in my belief, we need to rid the industry of incompetent surveyors. And I'm not referring to youngsters. You know, young guys making their way in this industry, they're entitled to make some mistakes along the way. It happens. That's what we do when we learn. So I think we owe them some assistance to get them in the right direction or heading in the right direction. But the people I think we have a problem with in the industry are those who knew a lot once and then forgot to develop further. The fact that a surveyor was competent 15 or 20 years ago doesn't mean they're competent now if they've not kept up to date with the changes in technology and composites and so on and so on and so on. What can IIMS do to help? Well, provide training and networking opportunities, share knowledge. We are sharing a lot of knowledge with members and non-members, industry best practice, mentoring, as I say, will come, cascade information and news. As soon as I get something from the Marine Accident Investigation Bureau in the UK, you know, a report on an incident, we bang that out through the various channels so surveyors can pick that up and understand the learnings from those cases. Enhanced technology in Zoom would be an example of that, trying to reach out to the wider market. And I think ensure that those surveyors who are deemed to be incompetent are not allowed into membership. We are really quite strict about who we want in membership, and we don't accept every application. And that's good for you. So for me, it's about maintaining high standards and driving them ever higher. Thank you very much. You've been a very attentive audience. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, conscious I'm 3 minutes over time, in which case I need to hand over to Rod. Thank you very much.
On the table here, on the port side, there are things of interest. Mike mentioned that